To all the A-listers and practitioners, welcome back to this thing of ours and another episode of the Chronicles of Gameology. I'm your host, Neil K. Marcellus, and yeah, that's checkmate. Now, unfortunately, this tap on the shoulder, this word to the wise I'm about to share with you is not the prevailing wisdom and shared sentiment among many dudes and their interactions when it comes to women these days, but a seasoned OG who was very instrumental in putting the final touches to my street savviness, passed on this Jedi type wisdom to me long time ago, which rises the alarm and draws attention as to how men should conduct themselves when it comes to this male and female relationship dynamic. And what he said was, by all means, a man shouldn't ever allow a chick to be his top priority while allowing himself to be marginalized to the extent where she only sees him as a convenient option. You see, from a street perspective, guys who fall up under the category and mental status of being a square are clueless and slow on the uptake in regards to the kind of relationship blunders they are setting up for themselves. And I will point out one of these all too often blunders here shortly. But these blunders gets their genesis from a steady diet of consuming the indoctrination that is heavily pushed by the status quo, where men is fattened up for the slaughter, so to speak, and becomes easy pickings for a shiesty female. But this quote, this wise counsel, in actuality, it describes a win-lose scenario, referred to from a street perspective as a no-dice situation. No-dice situations are basically activities that is very disjointed and out of whack. And when this type of environment is entertained due to a man being game goofy, then this sets the stage for a whole lot of lying and cheating. Which brings us to the title and theme of this episode. Seeing as the title and thumbnail of this episode has strong overtones surrounding how a deceptive female can orchestrate and administer her mojo in going about enticing men to become her convenient doormat. Therefore, to help further echo this theme and topic, I employed the help from one of hip-hop's living legends, a West Coast icon and seasoned OG, DJ Quick. It's a song of his that captures and echoes exactly what the title and the theme of this episode is conveying, which is the deceptive antics of a shiesty and a dishonest female. But DJ Quick so accurately described these qualities when he said, coming with the sob story, crocodile tears trying to game you. And that's exactly what the game do. Bars. And later on in the same verse, pretty much he speaks about the same concept of a no dice situation and how men who say they have some inkling and awareness of being street savvy become a crash test dummy and allow situations like this quote is trying to give fair warning to actually happen. And in doing so, like DJ Quick said, it's really giving the game a black eye. You see, this speaks to accountability because some measure of street savviness is warranted if a man is ever going to keep himself from ending up on the wrong side of an entanglement like this thumbnail is portraying. Check it. Since this episode is partially about pulling back the cloak as to how females so easily can deceive certain type of men, knowing how the game is played from the lowercase and small letter G perspective is a non-negotiable requirement if one is going to be street savvy. And when one is street savvy, then one becomes a multidimensional seer, which makes ready and enables a practitioner the insight to detect the instance that a deceptive female will start firing off a whole lot of gobbledygook and cockamamie half-truths by utilizing a certain type of mental gymnastics, which is called omission. Peep out this new image I'm currently showing at this moment. This individual dice being tossed out by this seasoned gameologist can be symbolized as representing the whole truth as it pertains to knowing a subject or a situation. And as you know, a single dice has 6 sides that make up its layout and composition. So, when I say that a woman lies and fabricates by omission, what I'm saying is that just like this self-standing dice is constructed of 6 sides, lying by omission is equivalent to making sure an individual only sees one angle or one iota of a subject matter or situation, and not the full spectrum, which is the remaining 5 angles or 5 aspects making up the completion of this dice, which is being symbolized as representing the whole truth. So being highly skilled and a multidimensional seer, this clues a practitioner on exactly how the game is played from the lowercase and small letter g perspective, ingratiating the man that arranges him to be in a favorable position to have excellent scrutinizing capabilities, which works hand in glove along with his overall mental dexterity, making him aware and on target at pinpointing when a woman starts to fabricate shit and start twisting things to her favor. So a multidimensional seer understands that she will dramatically leave out vital and important details. So when a seer, a seasoned practitioner, is suspecting a woman of lying, the practitioner will then pay very close attention to what she doesn't say, being on target and observant as to where is the gaps in the continuation of her narrative. But this ability for a practitioner to be a multidimensional seer is not just a singular and isolated and standalone type of skill set, but it's just 1/3 of a larger and more complete capabilities. Also, as Sun Tzu, the famous Chinese military general, strategist, and philosopher once said, for all practical purposes, if one is going to be skilled in detecting and spotlighting other people's bullshit, then the practitioner must already have been subjected to the power of the 3rd degree. But I will divulge all of this and the remaining 2/3 making up the completion of this capability here in a moment. But first, let me address a all too often blunder I mentioned earlier that men bring upon themselves when they create an atmosphere where a no dice situation can thrive and flourish. But another unproductive activity that is a byproduct of a no dice situation is when a man gets suckered into a love-hate relationship. But straight up, I have seen this take place right before my very eyes. But a no dice situation can xenomorph into a hideous, wasteful, and worthless kind of relationship where the interaction between a man and the particular woman he is dealing with gets its energy and kicks from a combination of where they both will consider each other as the apple of each other's eye, then swing totally to the other side to where they both will be ill-tempered to each other and just all out and point blank hostile. So I've seen where the man and the woman he is dealing with ends up getting locked into this perpetual playback loop where they are actively craving conflict while subconsciously seeking the other's approval. This is some real cuckoo from Cocoa Puffs type of shit right here. And those who might prescribe to the status quo way of looking at things might lean towards the rationalization that in due time, people will see the error of their ways. Now, that might be somewhat logical, but not necessarily true, for the very fact That time, indeed, is a qualified teacher. Unfortunately, time has a tendency to kill off all of his followers. You know what I'm saying? You just can't be waiting around for things just to get better. But I digress. Moving on to the promise I made earlier, where I mentioned I will divulge the remaining 2/3 of this vital skill set. Also, what is this third degree element I mentioned as well? Which all of this contributes in completing the totality of one being a multidimensional seer. Someone who is qualified and is able to peep out and detect something shady or feels the weight of something unsaid, regardless if it's a Shiesty female or anyone else. But when a practitioner is street savvy, this puts into motion that inkling, that twist within a qualified practitioner's gut when someone's words and actions doesn't line up. And of course, the mindset that mimics and falls like in step with what I just got finished describing is the mindset of being a thorough chess player. You see, besides if one is playing the game from the uppercase letter G or the lowercase letter g, the intellectual requirements in order to play a game of chess successfully can be and is applicational to the social dynamic and one's everyday activities. So swinging back as to how being a thorough chess player lines up with being a multidimensional seer. Therefore, for referencing purposes, you remember how it was a blast and very intriguing to zoom in and over our neighborhoods and homes when Google initially introduced their Google Earth Pro and satellite mapping capabilities. Then, so must a thorough chess player put to use similar capabilities, which comes down to viewing the chessboard from all possible angles and perspectives. This translates into a chess player taking care of business and being concise about their pattern recognition that involve identifying reoccurring setups and visualizing the chain of events taking place upon the chessboard. For this reason, a practitioner to fully exercise their ability to be a multidimensional seer, it requires equally for them to be efficient in their reconnaissance capabilities as well, similar to what is required to be a thorough chess player. This comes down to how efficient a practitioner has pushed and tapped the right kind of buttons that will prompt a practitioner's mind to be on the right frequency. And this has to do with subjecting oneself to this third degree that Sun Tzu said and pointed out was a requirement for one to detect and spotlight someone else's shady behavior. Zero in on this new image I'm showcasing at this moment. A double decker of a unknown reality that many individuals are clueless about is the bottom line. That our minds and disciplined thinking is driven not by answers, but by essential and well-formulated questions, for the simple fact that finding the right answers to the various enigmas that one will encounter on this chessboard we call life begins with kickstarting one's own thinking with the right fucking questions. So imposing the third degree intensive questioning upon one's own psyche is equivalent of viewing, in this case, a deceptive female from all possible angles and perspectives, like what I mentioned as it pertained to being a thorough chess player earlier. In this manner, a man courageously steps up to the plate and consolidates and makes firm his own personal psychology, which translates into him knowing thyself in respect to how accurately and intensely these three questions are flushed out and wholeheartedly answered, I might add. You see, in regards to playing the lowercase letter g rendition of the game, a practitioner must be damn sure in reference to how one goes about measuring potential course, and recourse. In other words, do the practitioner own notion of how things operate, cohabit, and shakes hands with the overall reality, making up the practitioner immediate and overall environment. And so, by having dealt with one's own psychology with this fine-tooth comb, this third-degree analysis, then this remaining 2/3 that encompass a practitioner, being a multidimensional seer, can be utilized. Check out this brand new image that I have up and showing at this moment. So peep gang, bearing the results from already have prompted one's own mind with that third degree analysis, a practitioner gains access to the triangle of exchange, which is a genuine and bona fide definition surrounding the concept called game from an authentic street perspective, where the term originally originated from. I have already slam dunked and put to rest this issue in a previous segment. Here's the link. Check it out once you through viewing this episode. You see, the rip-roaring and never a dull moment feel of play, underlining factors making up this chessboard we call life, can be quantified as a pair of opposites, joined above by a third supervising factor, as this image is demonstrating. But by having the proper and right state of mind, which is a vital requirement for one to be a multi-dimensional seer, then a practitioner can utilize the power of this authority, this third supervising factor at the very tip and top of this triangle, which then allows the practitioner to utilize this second factor, which is positioned at the bottom to the right of this same triangle. And this affords a practitioner the ability of seeing, which then allows the practitioner to utilize this final factor, which is located to the far left of this same image of this triangle. And this final factor is the ability to see the final outcome. In other words, what needs to be seen. Something which cannot resist revealing the totality of its makeup and framework surrounding the subject or situation that the practitioner is dealing with. And let me say this, you can bet your bottom dollar I have barely scratched the surface on revealing the clarity and vast wisdom that this triangle of exchange, this image that you're currently looking at, has to offer. But in concluding, majority of the damn time, yeah, I'm not even going to try to front. This is usually how it plays out. But whenever a man trip up and becomes a casualty of a no dice situation, he doesn't to any extent want to hear how domesticated and tame he has become. Because like a seasoned OG told me long time ago, behind every game goofy man who think he wears the pants in his relationship is a clever and shiesty female who have told him which pair to put on. Now that's checkmate. Thanks for watching. We'll definitely catch you on the next episode.